I think
Yo,
this
leave him
is
alone, bro.
everybody we're gonna get. So I'm just gonna get this bitch going. Everybody.
Yeah.
We are on a bit of a time constraint here. We got an hour 15 minutes, so I got a nice little agenda written up. There will be times to ask questions, but it's gonna unfortunately be a lot of me talking at you guys. So to get started, yeah, nice pretty slide. Agenda 7:30 to 7:40. We're just gonna intro an agenda 7:40 to 8. We're gonna watch the Booga video. If you've watched it, great job. You have no excuse to be doggy. If you haven't watched it, we're gonna watch it all together tonight. 10 minutes after the Booga video for questions about it. Only bad thing about the Boog video, it does not cover fort phase at all. It's just ball macro, which is still good, but after that, I'm going to give 20 minutes for me to go over some fort phase stuff, 15 minutes at the end for questions overall. That's what our agenda is looking like tonight. If you don't know me, my name is Blade. I've played in companies like Dropouts, currently play, or Dropouts, Mamooks, Opposition, Boogaflu Woo. Been warring and bruising for a hot fucking minute. Currently play in companies like Tech Academy, Tech Main, Horizon, Fresh Bench, soon to be Dopamine apparently. So yeah, play on a lot of servers, war a shit ton. Not an insane player by any means, but like to think I know my shit a little bit. So that is my little introduction. We got 10 minutes still just for people to pile in and stuff. Does anyone have any questions so far
Wait, I
about
have
what
a
we're going to be
question.
covering tonight? Yeah. Here,
Did
mister.
you feed the dog today?
I have fed the dog and his full amount, so he's
Okay.
chilling right now.
Just checking.
Yep. Good question. Okay. Well, no need to sit here in silence for 10 minutes, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is just pull up the video. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Thank you, Bowser. It's on max volume right now. If it's quiet to you, turn it up. It's 15, 16 minutes. We're going to watch most of it, and then we'll go over it after. So for now, just watch, learn, absorb, and if you think of a question during it, write it down, ask after.
Starting recording. All right, Boogaful ball macro overview. We're going to go over the objective of the main ball: positioning, zoning, crashing, spreading, balling, hot versus cold spots, and general tips. Once again, if there are any questions while we go through, just let me know. The objective of the main ball is to control point tick. You don't win wars unless you control point tick. Controlling point tick is primarily done by placing more players on point than the enemy. I know that sounds really stupid, but it is the truth. You have more people on flag, you spin flag, you win. You can alter this balance by securing kills / not dying. The most efficient way to secure kills is by coordinating damage. These are very basic things, but more in depth, we're going to go over how you do these certain things better. Positioning. The quads have to think is that they are point players, but they control a much smaller zone of the point. Okay, so this is a big transition from what we used to do for a very long time. The old macro was that you push point team to top quads go in their road, and then bottom groups step into point. That is no longer. You are now a point member if you are in a quad. You are just playing a certain section of the point. If you are a top quad, you shouldn't be extending 20 meters into their road. If you are a bottom quad, you still need to play your zone like you would play any other zone. It doesn't mean you're perma pushing up or playing bottom, okay? The point team is a rotating element of the main ball. Oh, that's Frank. He's getting active. They are the ones that set up plays. So the point team is going to be constantly rotating around the point. They're going to be looking at to set up plays for the rest of the main ball. That is their primary objective. Again, the point team's old objective used to be to constantly spin the flag, but that should be everybody's objective. Hang on, give me 1 second. Right. Thank you. The only time you should be stepping off of point is in an emergency to stay alive or to quickly zone a healer or a fire staff or any other player that is playing too close to your quad. So you should be... Wiki. Can we edit that out? Thank you. The only time you should be stepping off a point is in an emergency to stay alive or to quickly zone a healer playing too close. So yeah, there's a lot of dots on a point here. That looks relatively ugly. I know. Just the light greens are sacreds. Our sacred should be mostly on point, only slightly off point. And then as you can see, we have our top right quad, top left quad, bottom right quad, playing almost always on point, unless we'll go over some specific instances where you have to get off. But for the most part, you should be always playing on point. Zoning. The purpose of zoning is to fight for control of your quad. Do not extend 20 meters off point. We have seen this a lot in VODs. It's not like you guys are doing anything wrong. It's just old meta, in my opinion. If you're dogging down someone that's really low, sure, you can extend off of point, right? If you're going to secure that kill. But don't spend all of your time off of point 15 meters out into their road. It's a waste of time. You should be focusing on the point spin. The tighter you zone, the more damage you output and take. This is big here. That equals more alt charge, which means better crashes. So, quad players, you're a part of the point team. You're primarily in charge of following up on crashes and playing your quad. The tighter that you play to your quad inside of point and in a sacred and against enemies with friendlies, you output more damage and you input more damage, which means your ultimate charges faster, which means you crash. As a main ball, you crash harder because you have more deados. You should be playing mostly on point. Only leave when in a bad spot. Sacred should be mostly on point and slightly off. Crashing. This is a big one. If you look at the top right here, this is one of our crashes from our war last night. We are crashing these 3 guys in the bottom, and our entire army is coming from one direction. And I shouldn't have to tell you guys why that's a problem, but I'm going to. All right, so if our entire army comes from this one direction, the guy that's in front, that's crashing from where he probably should be crashing from, when he turns around, he's getting body blocked by a bunch of fucking blues. So we're going to go over how we want you guys to crash from here on out. And it's actually pretty simple. It just takes a little bit of thought process. So the purpose of crashing is to secure kills. You should be crashing the clump from the direction that your quad is positioned, and you should be looking to engulf the enemy by body blocking them. Okay, so when you dogpile, you're looking to surround the enemy and prevent them from leaving with your body. The reason why we lose a lot of crashes is because our bruisers are not dogpiling properly. As soon as the countdown comes, this is what you should be thinking of. How am I approaching this crash? So for example, if Looper is calling, all right, I want you to look top left. We're looking top left in 3. As soon as you hear the 3 bruisers, you should be looking top left. As soon as he says the 2, you should be positioning yourself at an angle that your quad is supposed to be approaching the crash from to properly surround the clump. And then on 1, you should be popping cleanse and looking to get active. All right. How you efficiently engulf, you body block enemies, prevent friendly body block. It's pretty straightforward. And as a general rule of thumb, this is also another thing that we're doing very improperly. If we're taking the initial crash, you don't stay in a clump. Okay. So if we are not recrashing, you don't stay, because you can expect the recrash and you are going to be out of cleanse with no cooldowns. So if you're taking initial, it's very smack and go. It's like 1 pick for the army, 2 picks for the army, and you get the fuck out. If you're taking the recrash and you win, that's when you ball up and you start to look to stay in the ball and dog down players. So again, general rule of thumb, if you're taking initial crash, hit and run. If you're taking a recrash, you can stay in longer, and you want to stay in longer to secure more kills. Okay, that's why we're always looking to recrash, because it's in our advantage. And at the top of the screen here, you've kind of got a picture. You got our bot right quad, bottom left quad, top right quad, and our top left quad. And this is how you should be approaching this crash, right? Point team's going to be coming typically from center of point. It's really important for this bottom right quad not to body block them too hard. And then if you're on the sides of the crash, you really want to push yourself to get to this side of the crash. So you're not just all funneling into this one spot. Because if we all funnel into this one spot, we get recrash and it hurts a lot more. So again, some VODs that I watch of players doing this, they already know to be doing it, but some I watch and you guys have no idea how you should be approaching the clump. This is very straightforward. It just takes a little bit more thought process as soon as you hear the countdown. Okay, so again, you surround the clump. You're approaching from your quad. If your quad is top right, you should be looking to hit the top right side of the quad or the clump. If your quad is bottom left, you should be looking to hit the bottom left side of the clump. And this reigns true for anywhere the clump is at. It's still the same. You just want to put yourself in the same position of the clump that your quad is assigned. Okay. Spreading. When taking the initial crash, you must spread quickly. The best way to avoid getting body block is to spread towards your quad. So, your quad is your home. When you have to leave your home, you should be looking to return back to your home in the same direction that you approached it. That is likely going to be the safest route. This does not mean leave the point. So when the caller says spread, he is not necessarily telling you to get off the point. Again, spreading and getting off the point are 2 different calls. So if I'm not saying, or Looper's not saying, get off the point, unless you have to, you shouldn't be getting off the point. You still need to play on the point. And then again, down here as a little visual example of how you should be looking to spread. Our bottom left quads are looking to get back to the bottom left quad. Our point group's looking to get to somewhere center around point. Our bottom right quad looking to get to bottom right. Our top right quad looking to get top right. And the reason why that's good is because we're not just moving through as a big army that's easy to recrash. And you guys have seen this, right? When you do recrashes, you've seen like a big giant ball of players that's moving because they're trying to spread, and then you recrash where the ball is of players is going. You can prevent that by spreading properly. Balling and dogging. If you hard win a crash, you should be dogging down targets, and this shouldn't always be on the caller to decide whether or not you're dogging. It should be in your guys' mental. So if you hard win a crash and it's very big and fun and it looks pretty when you kill a bunch of people, you should look to translate that into like just staying on point in a big giant ball and just fucking everybody up that comes in your way. The more blues on one red, the better. The faster that we dogpile on individual targets, the faster they die, the faster that we can move on to the next one. Point team should always be dogging to force enemy crashes. So point team, I don't really have to tell you this, you guys understand this, but realistically, the point team should always be moving kind of in a unit as a ball to kind of try and bait out crashes and also secure kills just for free point tick. And then on all-ins, the entire army should be balling, dogging specific areas unless told otherwise. This is mostly on the caller. If I'm saying all in, bottom left, bottom left, bottom left, as soon as I say all in, I am then going to transition, the caller is then going to transition into a positional call where he wants you to focus all of your damage at. You've seen like really weak all-ins. Some of you guys have been in our war, like our last defense. The all-in was really weak because it was really spread out. Just pick a spot. The caller is going to pick a spot, and you just ball up and stick on it and try to get as many kills as possible. Lastly, we got hot versus cold spots. The enemy point team is usually the hottest spot on the point. You should not be getting caught in hot spots. So earlier when I said like quads should always be playing on point, realistically, the only time you shouldn't be playing on point is you're about to die or your quad is flooded with the enemy point team. So I'm looking at my bottom right quad in specifically. A lot of times the enemy is going to play top left. To us, that's bottom right. And that means the bottom right quad can't just sit inside of the enemy point team. Usually it forces them off. It's okay, but the rest of the quads need to be stepping to kind of, counteract that the force that is pushing us off. The coldest spot is usually the quad that's directly opposite of the enemy point team. So if you are top left when the enemy point team is bottom right, then you should be playing for relatively free. That happens a lot other than the kill squad pressure, obvious. And very in layman's terms, the hotter the spot that you're in, the more damage you take. The colder the spot, the less damage you take. All right, it's pretty straightforward. But just remember that when you're in a hot spot, if you can't handle the damage, you need to get out. General tips. We should be looking to play aggressively and listen to the caller. A lot of the VODs, especially from the melees that I've been watching lately, you guys are really slow at the beginning of the war. A lot of wars are decided in the first 5 minutes. Like, I'll tell you guys straight up. If you get like a big aggressive opening against the enemy and knock the wind out of them quickly, like a B50-50, for example, and you win that 50-50, it is going to snowball through the rest of the war. It's going to feel worse for the enemy when they're just losing. So at the beginning of the war, for every single player, you should be looking to like fucking open your eyes a little bit more. I know it's kind of ironic coming from me because and maybe I shouldn't say that's kind of racist, but open your eyes a little bit more, take a deep breath, wake up, and start playing your best game right at the beginning of the war. And again, when the three count starts, you should be snapping camera to pre-call spot. So for example, top left in 3, all of you should be looking at the call spot. Top left in 2, you should be looking, finding yourself a good approach. So instantly moving to zone yourself around the ball so you're not just jumping into it. And then at 1, you should be popping cleanse and looking to crash. All right. And that's pretty much it. If there's any main ball players that have any sort of input, just let me know. But some things that were on the slide or not on the slide that I wanted to go over is that 1, you can't crash spots that we don't have outside control. So kill squad, this is very, very related to you. If we don't have top left control with Oppo, it makes the crash very weak. So typically you shouldn't be looking for a crash on a spot that you don't have quad control. And then what are some other things that I talked about? Oh yeah, point team quit inting in before the rest of the army. It's been happening quite a bit. So don't do that. Vadim, Yep.
All right, so real quick, you unfortunately can't hear what Vadim says here. He responds to it in a sec, so I'm gonna fast forward to when that is.
Slow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some of our recrashes have been a little slow, and the slower the recrash, the weaker it is. So if you see it happening, don't be afraid to jump into it. Like, oh, how about now? Am I good now? Oh, nice, Wiki. Yeah. Yeah, as you guys approach a recrash, you know, like Gurge and I, and this is no offense to Looper, he just needs more experience. And Hey Crew as well, and Bobby, who are all 3 callers that are in this company. They just need more experience. But Gurge and I can typically see when a recrash is coming, so we kind of pre-call the recrash, and we're earlier to it. But even still, like if you see an opportunity for a recrash, and the caller doesn't, you should be looking for it, and you should be looking to jump into it because he's probably going to say this. And Vadim, you actually bring up a really good point. Some of the best players, and I'm an avid VOD watcher. I watch tons of VODs all the fucking time. I watch them when I'm at work, watch them when I'm at lunch, watch them before I go to bed. I'm kind of sick in the head. But one thing that I've noticed consistently with good players is that they often see things happening 1 to 2 or 3 seconds before the caller sees them. So if you see them, act upon it, right? If you know something should be happening like a recrash, act upon it because the caller is looking at everything, which is why he's a little bit later to what you're already seeing happen. Yeah, and that's good advice. And then the big thing, like if you guys were in the Horizon War when we attacked, and it felt like they just had more point players, that's because they did, because their quads were playing in point, and we were not. So we got to play tighter to point. We got to play in point, and we have to understand that when we are winning, we should be balling up, because that's why it felt like we were getting dogged down, is because they were winning recrashes, and when they did that, they just stuck in the clump and they just killed anything that came into their path. That'll always happen. That's just good macro by them. So we need to practice the same things so that we are preparing to be on even field with them. And again, I don't think there's a situation that our main ball gets beat flat out because of skill. I actually think in this meta that skill matters less. It's more so about how you play and understand the macro and play for the team. I know that kind of sucks, but it's the fucking truth. So, yes.
Okay, so that's the video. Few points I want to like really double down on before I take questions here. First thing, you heard him talking a lot about basically people stepping point, quads playing on point, not stepping off the point. And then he also talks a lot about the hot versus cold zones. Obviously, you might not be familiar with like that way of phrasing it, but you should understand what that means. I know I've talked to a couple of y'all during VOD reviews and stuff like that. As far as like meta right now is a lot of point team playing their top of point. So the bottom quads on the other side kind of get fucked a lot by it. Talked to a lot of a few of the bottom quad bruisers about, you know, step point when you can, but don't die for it. So for instance, y'all can see this raid plan, right? Anybody?
Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect. So let's say, right, that this is their point team, right? The skull here. We're playing like this. Groups 4 and 6, top quads, 1 and 2, playing point towards the top half. They're going to have their same setup here, right, too, where they're going to be heavy on our top. If they start pushing into bottom left is horrible to play because you have respawns coming in from A. You're dealing with point team a lot of the times. If you are getting pushed like 25-5 down here, 20-5, obviously play your life a little bit, right? You can move it up to top and step point up there. Then just come back when your quad is, quote, colder, when it's not as heavy down there. So playing for tick is everything. When this is happening, our top quads need to be stepping 24/7 because that's our heavy side of point. That's our hot side of point. So if point team is up here and our quads are doing this and our bot quads are pushed off, then they have 20 on the point, we have 10. They're going to spin that shit so fast. So it's so important to be stepping point. When you are stepping point, best way to do it is outside to in. That makes sense. So if you're standing on the point like let's say I'm group 6 here, right? And I'm standing on the point and I'm hitting people that are off the point and they crash down into bottom left, our top right, you don't see that coming at all. Your VGIG might see it, but like as a bruiser, you're not going to see that crash coming down onto you at all. You're going to get caught in that. You're going to get popped. I've seen it in multiple VODs now. So ideally, you are playing on the point facing inward. It kind of depends on your side, right? Like if you're top left, these respawns might come in from A and dog you from this side. They might have people coming in from war camp. But you want to be looking at the point as much as possible. You want to see them crashing so that you know when you need to play off and recrash and not get caught in those crashes. Next thing I had, save your grav mail for crash calls whenever possible. If it's been a while since there's been a crash, don't just throw your grav maelstrom combo out into a quad, because you're not going to get any value out of that. No one's going to die, right? Like, unless you have a Dedo behind it, no one's going to... If they're dying to 2 bruisers throwing a grav mail combo, like, they shouldn't be warring. So try to save your grav mail for either like a boom call where we're doing a crash with no Dedos, but it's synchronized across the army, or for a crash call, because that's everything in a crash. If you're going on with hammer debts every single time, I think my mic's cutting out a little bit, I can't tell, but if you're going into hammer crashes every single time, you're just providing less value on those crashes than if you have grav mail up. Same thing, VGIGs, you want to have your obliv up, you want to have your scream up, you want to have full combo. So try to save those if you know that a crash is coming. Obviously VGIGs are OP right now with mag gloves, so like cooldowns aren't that deep, but you want to have it up every time, best case scenario. The other thing I really wanted to point out, because it's something that we don't do at all, and when he said it, I was like, yeah, like definitely important to bring up. When you're crashing from your quad's direction, if that makes sense. So let's say in this scenario, right, they're crashing down on our top right. So they come, their point team, everybody crashes down into this. They're all clumped up right now. When you're crashing, if everyone crashes from this side, and it's just little old group 6 crashing from this side, they are free moving out from these directions. They're getting out of that crash, no one's dying. But if when we're crashing, if we're looking more like this, where group 4 wraps into the road, crashes from up here. Group 3 wraps to the right, crashes from here. Group 5 and point team come from here. They are so body blocked in. They are so ice walled in on every direction. They're all fucking dead. That is the difference between killing people and not killing people on crashes, is not giving them an escape route. So very important to the 3-2-1 thing. When he says 3, you look for the area. When he says 2, you're moving to your area to crash from. And when he says 1, you're popping cleanse, throwing your grav, deading. Like, people will fucking die, and it feels so good when you wipe their whole army. Last thing I wanted to talk about before opening it up to questions is dogging people. I have a clip somewhere that I'll try to find before this workshop ends, but when you're dogging people down, so let's say we recrash this, right? And most people die, but some people live, and they all start moving to top left. Follow this. As a unit, follow this. If you're group 3, you can kind of return back to quad. Like, you don't want to just follow it all the right way around necessarily. But if you're these groups, while you're on your way back to your quad, follow it. Dog them down, everybody. If we're all following that, we did it really well in this last price check war one time. I saw it one time in this price check war. We were inside fort, and the whole fucking army after a crash just moved as a death ball around point. And we just cleaned up so many kills. It was awesome. But if we do that every time, then we don't have to worry about point tick because they're all dead. So those are the main points I wanted to call out from the video. I know the video had a lot of information in it, but it's important stuff. So any questions from the video or from what I just said? And please feel free to ask them. Like, we have time in the agenda to ask questions. So if you're thinking it and you just don't want to say it, I'm sure someone else is thinking it too.
Quick question.
Yep.
So, can you explain to like everyone like the combos for a Warhammer Detta?
Yeah. So you never really want a Warhammer Det, but like if you have to, then what you want to do is you have to get the half heavy off, right? When you get a heavy with a hammer, you get 20% in power. That works on your Detto. So your Detto is doing 20% more damage just for you getting that heavy off. But ideally what you're doing when you do a Warhammer Det is you are popping cleanse, you're popping det, you're going in with a half heavy, you're shocking it, ABing it, and getting the fuck out. It's fast, but it's a simple combo. Half heavy, shock AB, get the fuck out. That makes sense?
Yeah.
If you pop Dedo before your half heavy, does that apply? I don't think it applies to the Dedo, does it? Or do you want a
It
half
does.
heavy first and then Dedo? It does?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so Dedo damage
Cool.
is not snapshot. Same reason that whenever you do a GA Dedo, you're popping cleanse, you are throwing grav and Dedoing at the same time, and then jumping in and auto mailing, because as long as you get that grav auto mail off before the det goes off, all of that empower counts towards the Dedo damage.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You bet. Anything else?
How's too far for top quads, like position wise?
So it's gonna depend. Let's flip this real quick. Say we're on attack, right? So I know like left and right probably isn't correct here, but let's just say we're on attack right now. Normal between crashes, you are doing the same old thing, right? You are playing on point as much as you humanly can. You are pressuring the point. You are ticking this thing. You're spinning the point. If, let's say, they crash down to here and we wipe the fuck out of them, we get like 10 kills in that clump, it is okay for top quads to move it up and slow down their respawns coming out. Usually Hey Crew or the caller, whoever it is, will calm this to the army. Like, top quads, take space, take space, take space. You're coming out here, you're throwing pass, you're throwing shocks, you're just trying to stall them getting back to point. Because if we just wipe the fuck out of them on point, like they have like 5 people here left, then we're spinning it fast as fuck already. So all you're trying to do is just not let them get back to it. This is where as a VGIG, you are dropping an ice wall, good value ice walls here, and I'll let like a VGIG talk about what those are in VOD reviews and stuff. This is just focusing on macro. But if we get a big wipe on point, moving the whole army forward like this is great, because you're just taking the space that you just earned. If he calls for an all-in though, like if we're like 95% tick, you know how a lot of these wars, it's like 80 people on the point and you're just trying to tick it harder than they are. If we're doing something like that, you just keep your body on point. You're just trying to stay alive on point, kill people on point, dog people down with your group. But it depends, right? And usually on a, if the base thing I would say is if you see a big wipe on point and you know that they have respawns coming out soon, because you can hear the respawn calls coming out, it's okay to start cheating forward a little bit. You're not cheating all the way up to like fucking ramparts, but like coming off point a little bit and just dropping CC so that they can't get back fast enough is great.
Thanks. One more thing. What are some no-nos as a bruiser?
What do you mean?
What are some things that like you should tend not to do, like in like on a like attack or defense? I don't know. I'm just saying like overall, like what are some bad things you don't want to do playing as a bruiser?
I mean,
Like,
there's a
on
lot.
quad and shit.
There's a
I mean,
lot.
just name a few.
I mean, like playing your life poorly, not dogging down the same target as your other bruiser, going silent during a war. So as a bruiser, like you call your group, right? Like you kind of got to be a yapper to lead a group. Like you should just be calming bullshit a lot of the times. Like I'm playing top left. Yeah, this guy's AB. Like, oh look, here, ping. Like just stuff like that. Like you are calling your group. You're responsible for your group's movement. Like weak lead bruisers, and when I say weak, I don't mean like play style. I mean like comms. Like if you have a group that has a weak lead bruiser, that group is not going to work well together. So like overcomming as a bruiser is a great thing. Like you can literally like calming your det. Like I'm 70% building det, have grab mail in 4. Like shit like that is huge. You should just be yapping, bro. Like bruisers need to be yappers. If you're a silent bruiser, make sure that your lead bruiser doesn't shut the fuck up. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of no-nos as a bruiser. We can go into that in like VOD reviews. Again, this is more focused on just all team macro, but just make sure you're stepping point, make sure you're ticking. I'm going to go into tick in a bit here, but tick is everything in a war, right? Like it's obviously how you win the war. You take the points to 100, you win. You don't, you lose. But any other questions on the video or what I said after the video?
I got a question for you that might help.
Yep.
So, scenario, you're trying to play life, you have a cleanse, but then the caller is calling to crash somewhere. What are you looking to do without cleanse?
So you don't have cleanse right now, is what you're saying?
Or do you have no cleanse? You still have your AB, you still have your grab, you have your mail.
Yeah.
You have no cleanse. Deado, maybe, if you have Deado.
Sure.
You have no cleanse, you're playing life, you just got dogged down, you thankfully got out.
Yep.
What do you do in that scenario? That would
Yep,
help
so
some of these
it's-
bruisers, I think.
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Newbie. It's gonna depend a lot on like the specific scenario, right? Like if you have no health and your healer's playing life, then like you're not going into that crash, right? Like you're just not gonna provide any value to it. If you just got out of something, you still don't have cleanse pot, but you have full combo up and your healer is available, you're healed back to full health, you're good to go. It's okay to still go into a crash. You just don't want to be in the fucking middle of it, right? Like you want to stick to the outskirts of it a little bit. Where let's say I'm a group 5 bruiser in this scenario and they're crashing right here. And our army's crashing correctly, they're doing their thing, we got them synced up right now or, corralled in. If I'm a group 5 bruiser and I barely just made it out, I might look to shock like a little thing real quick. This smiley face, right? I might look at like here or like here. You're looking to still provide some value to this clump. If you need a little bit more time though, it's okay to like, obviously some people are going to make it out of this clump. Like no, you're never going to have a crash where literally every single person in it dies. But if they start moving, let's say we kill like most of them and they start straggling down to here and you still have your grav deck combo, fucking use it here, right? Like they're 30% health. They got no stam. They got no abilities. They got no cleanse pot up. Use it here. So ideally, you never want to be late to a crash. You want your whole army to crash down when the call is made. But if for whatever reason you can't be there for it immediately, it's okay to look for stragglers with your combo. Because one, you're staying on the same like Deado timer as your army, and you're building at the same time as them, instead of just holding it until the next crash is called. But also, you can look to finish off kills with it. Kills are everything, because kills mean more tick means we win. Does that kind of break that down?
Yeah, good explanation. Maybe one other question. This might be a troll question. So, what would you look for right off the bat as soon as let's say we're on defense, right? What do you look for right off the bat on a fort? Like you just got off a fort, you're running to point. What is your general number one like priority? Because everybody's even. They all have cooldowns. They all have cleanse. Everything's open.
Yep. Good question. So we're running out on defense like this, right? We're coming out here. Their army is meeting us right here. We're coming out. My first thing every single time I come out of fort, I'm looking for a path into them. Because not only is a path just going to slow their roll, it's going to stagger them, it's going to slow them, but you're also building your debt right off the rip. If you hit 3 people with that path, and the rune glass is ticking on all of them, you're going to get like 15%, 20% of your debt right off rip, right away. You're building debt. So I'll usually, when I get to about here, like let's say this is bonfire now, when we're getting up to here, I'm throwing a path out to here, I'm moving it to top, I'm going to drop a shockwave, something like that. They'll usually have some bruisers that trickle down into here. If you're a bottom quad, you're going down to that bruiser, you're going to go ape them down, you're going to go throw a Gravwell at them. You don't need to hold Gravwell, Maelstrom, anything like that right now. You are just looking to build your detonate. As a bruiser, like the entire war is just building your debt faster than they can, or on par that they can, and then just crashing better with it. Like, unfortunately, this meta, everyone has fucking 25,000 health and is a goddamn tank. So the only way to kill them is by detonating with your army. And that's like what Hori said at the end of his video, like skill matters less in this meta. It really does. Because you can be a great player, but if your army gets out-crashed the whole time, it doesn't matter. Crashes are everything, therefore Deado is everything. You were just looking to stack that Deado as fast as possible. And then when you know that you've been sitting on Deado for a bit, or it's been a while since there's been a crash, you're saving that Grav Mail. Because again, if you have a Grav Mail, it's a way better crash. This is a crash meta, and it has been for a while, and it's, you gotta get good at it, or you're fucked. Any last questions? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to confirm, like, when you're bruising in the quad, we should be pathing more off the point, and, like, we shouldn't be pathing on crashes, right?
It's a great question. So, you never want to path an actual crash. Because, long story short, everybody should know at this point, if you get staggered twice at the same time, and if you don't know it, like, it's fine. Long story short, if you get staggered twice at the same time, you get a dodge roll. You get a dodge roll out no matter what your armor weight is, nothing. So if we do a big army crash right here, and we're crashing down on them, and the two bruisers from group 6 can't make it, so they just path it, you are giving them a light roll out of that clump for free. So you don't want to path the actual crash that's called, but if you have like less than 80% of your detonate, you are pathing clumps. So like clumps are going to form on point even when there's not crashes, as you know. So if you see a clump down here and your det is like 60%, path that shit, bro. It is Path of Destiny. Like, this meta is all about det building. Path is your best det building ability. Now, if you are 100% det, if you're like 95% det, you don't need to path it. Yeah, it's kind of old meta where you path a healer that's looking to like use their ability. You know, they have their life staff above their head. You're interrupting their DE. You're interrupting their clap. It could lead to a kill. You're just kind of being a nuisance. But most of your paths should be into clumps, but not on crashes.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yep, you bet. Okay, I'm going to keep this thing moving here. We're going to bring it into Fort because Fort is más importante, and we are horrible at it, as we saw last night. So I'm going to break this thing down a little bit here. Overall macro inside of Fort. Again, point tick is everything in wars. Not only because it's how you win or lose, but it forces the other side to do something. What I mean by this is, let's say you're on defense, right? And they're inside a fort and it is spinning at 60% and it is still growing, still growing, still growing. You feel that pressure. Everyone feels that pressure. You know that they have more people on point than you do right now inside a fort. You have to look for a crash call soon. So you have to crash, which means the attackers get an opportunity for a counter crash. If they wipe you on that counter crash, they just win the war. All done, over Jover. So point tick is everything. Same thing outside of fort. If point tick is spinning at 90%, the defenders have to do something, right? They can't just keep stepping point because you have more people on it. They have to look to kill some of us. On defense, it's the flip side of that, right? On defense, you want to stall that point tick as long as humanly possible. If they're not ticking point, the onus is on them to do something. They have to look for a crash because they're not ticking. They can't get enough people on. We're beating them off the quad. We're beating them off the point. You know, like, we're hard winning it. They have to look for a crash. So point tick is everything in wars, both on like the mental edge and just like how you win the war. Going off that, respawns are big inside fort, especially towards the end because they're like 50 seconds or some bullshit. Like, they are very long respawns. So again, you should all hear the respawn caller. You should have them turned up enough to where it's not like obnoxiously loud, but loud enough to where you can still hear her or him. You are stalling for these respawns on defense. So if they get a good wipe and you're still alive, you are stepping that goddamn point and playing your life. Because we might have 20 seconds till respawns hit, and we just need to make sure we don't lose the war until then. Because obviously respawns are hitting for both armies, but the attackers are spawning way the fuck outside. We are spawning right next to the point. We're going to be there before they are. Same side, flip side of that, on an attack, you have to know that that's coming. So let's say, you know, Hey Crew calls for a full crash 15 seconds before a respawn. He trolls the army. And we get a massive wipe. We're like, let's go, let's go. I see so many bad armies that just like, all in point. We just killed them all. They're all dead. Everybody in. And then respawns hit in that 15 seconds and we haven't taken the point. And now we are sitting ducks for their recrash because they're all coming up. They all have cleanse up. They all have their absorption pots up. They probably have detonates up. We are sitting ducks. We're all sitting in one place on the point, and they can easily crash it from off point, wipe us, and we lose all our momentum. So knowing it's coming on an attack, if you hear respawns are coming up in like 5 seconds, and that point is not at like 95% tick, you're getting the fuck off the point. You're getting back to dirt. You're playing back into your quads. You are playing normal because you do not want to get totally like one shot on a crash off of a respawn. Going off that, attackers just being alive inside the fort puts crazy pressure on the defense. So if we're on attack, you just want to be alive. Because if you're alive inside that fort, like this past war against Price Check, they had like 30 people just piss chilling in hell. that sucked. Because it's like, I know that they can come step on point whenever they want. I know they can look for a crash whenever they want because they're just alive inside this fort right now. They can send it whenever. It's just pressure. But if you wipe them and you dog them out of fort and they reset, like, you feel the weight come off your shoulders. You're like, okay, I can just look at the gate. I can stop this gate movement in. Like, I'm chilling right now. So on defense, you want to kill them and get them out. On attack, you just want to stay alive. Because just being inside that fort, they can't just look outside and hold gates and stuff like that. They have to look to do something about it, or they know that you're going to crash down and kill them. Last thing on this, gate rebuilds are huge momentum killers. You have to get them up on defense, and you have to stop them on attack. There were so many times this war where I haven't seen any like side gate VODs or anything, except for like a couple. But there were so many times where like their whole army was around point. And there's no excuse to not get gates up. Like, we should have had every fucking gate rebuilt, except maybe B. Like, there were so many times you can get that gate up. It just kills their momentum entirely. If they're all inside fort and they see A, C, D, and E all go up, that means any respawn they get can only come in through B. One direction. If you get A, C, and D put up, they can only come in through E gate or back. You know, like, it's just, it limits the areas that they can come into fort, and it murders their momentum. So, those are just kind of overall macro things in fort, nothing specific, but does that all kind of make sense to people? Any questions there? Cool. All right, I'm going to go next. Side gate anchor on defense. So, obviously, on defense, you have 2 quad groups on each side gate. One of these is an anchor group, one of these is a flex group. You should know which one you're in by now. If you've been getting moved around, you know, just know which one you're on when he talks about the war plan. If you're a bruiser on an anchor gate, or if you're a bruiser in an anchor group or a flex group, you are a lineman on the gate, right? You should think of yourself as an O lineman, and they're a D lineman for all our American football fans out there. You're a lineman on the gate. The point in the middle is your quarterback. You do not let them get to your fucking quarterback. You are stuffing that goddamn gate. You are blowing your load on that gate. You don't want to dead it because you need to save debts for crashes, but you are holding that gate. You are stuffing the choke. You are playing inside choke. I see way too many times bruisers like playing 10 feet behind the choke, and they can walk in for free. Better armies are always going to walk in for free on that. You have to stuff that thing. Obviously, play your life. Don't just stand there the whole time and like get shot by fire and just die. But it's an in and out. It's a breathe in and out. If when you rotate out, another bruiser needs to come in and throw their load. Like, you are stuffing that. VGIGs on these anchor groups. You're doing the same thing as bruisers. You know, you're pumping it with VG, you're dropping ice walls, you're dropping snow globes on it. You are just not making it fun for them to get in. Do not let them get to your quarterback. Do not let them get to the point. The big thing for anchor VGIGs, you are looking for a rebuild as soon as humanly possible. If they push past your gate, you're not following them in as an anchor group VGIG. You are immediately looking for a rebuild. If they have someone there cringing on you, like some disruptor that just won't leave you alone, yeah, bring it in. He'll fuck off to someone else. Go back. You can literally leave for like 10 seconds, go pretend like you're fighting in the clump, walk right back and start rebuilding again. Again, rebuilds are momentum killers. It makes it so unfun on attack if they get everything rebuilt. Everyone, your prio, especially as an anchor group, you don't let healers get through that gate. If you see a healer start getting close to the gate, ape that fucker down. Drop a half heavy AB on them. They will get scared and back away again. If their group gets in but the healer doesn't, and they try to play in dirt at all, they should be getting wrecked because they have no one healing them. And then finally, if they all do get in, again, everyone goes to point for the crash calls except for the VG. If it's like all in on point or like really, really heavy on point, or you're out of repair parts, or there's someone aping you the whole time on your gate, yeah, if you're the VGIG, bring it in, contribute to the clumps. But like your first prio as an anchor group VGIG is rebuilding that gate. Does that make sense to all the anchors?
Yeah.
That
is
perfect. Side gate flex on defense. You are instantly following people that come in down to the point. Do not let point team get crashed on and be outnumbered. To go with this, everyone should have a way to communicate with Hey Crew on side gates. So obviously right now we've been using Discord and Discord Canary. Don't be afraid to unmute in main comms. Ideally, I think we're using TeamSpeak soon. We'll show people how to set up whisper lists. If your gate, if like 10 people flood through your gate, you have to comm that to Hey Crew. You have to comm that to the army. Because if point team is playing down in B choke and they get 20 people in from the side gates and crash down to us in B choke, we are wiped and the war is over literally that quick. So we have to know when people are coming in so we can get the fuck out of there. Because if we don't know to get the fuck out of there, we are wiped and it's over. It's done, especially on long respawns. And then second point is play like an anchor group until they have people push past, then just stall their push through dirt and be ready to recrash. So obviously until they're pushing through, you're playing the exact same way I just explained for an anchor group. Bruisers, VGIGs, you're doing the exact same shit. If and when they do push past you, you are just slowing their push. Because if they walk in for totally free and they walk straight to B-choke and they're not touched, they're going to crash on us. Even if you comment, we won't have time to react. But if you drop an ice wall on 2 bruisers, if you drop a shock on 2 bruisers, if you are just slowing them getting to that B-choke to crash behind us, we're chilling. We have time to get out. We have time to move. So you're trying to slow that push in as much as possible. And again, it could be 2 bruisers that get through. I don't care. Your whole 5-man's following it down. We cannot be outnumbered on point because, again, point is the only thing that matters. Tick is the only thing that matters. So if you're piss chilling at a gate or you're fighting people in dirt trying to get kills and we are 20 to 10 outnumbered on the point, we're fucked. So does that make sense for all the flex gate teams? Perfect. All right, going to the next. Point team on defense. You are stuffing B-choke as hard as possible. B-choke is a lot longer than these other gates. They have to walk through a whole ass tunnel. They don't just have one little gate that they have to get through. You do not want to let them in. If it's even numbers on this, you are just throwing your whole load. Again, not debt, but everything else. You can vines them, because I know VGIGs get that shit up as fast as possible. I'll let a VGIG talk about that, though. I am not a VGIG player. But you are just stopping them from pushing in. If their point team walks in for free, they instantly start spinning the point. Then, again, point spin is all that matters. That puts pressure on the rest of the army, where they have to start playing to point. They have to give up their gates. Point team, you are just not letting these guys in. Listen for side gates being flooded. Don't get crashed from behind. Same thing. Side gates, you have to calm this. If we don't know that side gates are in, we can't see side gates. We're playing in B-choke. You have to let people know. Once they are in, and we're just playing normal inside a fort, point team ideally always wants to be at the top of B. If you move it back all the way to the bottom of B into hell, they're walking in B-choke for free, except for like a couple disruptors. But disruptors can fuck with healers. They can't do much to a bruiser or a VGIG or a tank. So you want to play top of point as much as possible on defense. And then lastly, stay on point. Spin is everything. We've talked about that. All right, now for attack. Before I go to attack, though, anybody have any questions on defense? Does this all make sense to people? And I'm going to go through like a diagram of the movements and stuff, but just words-wise, does this make sense? Anybody have questions?
No.
Beautiful. Okay, then we're going to move on to attack. Side gate attacks. Obviously, you don't have an anchor group or a flex group when you're on attack. It's just side gates. You're cleansing and getting through. For everything I just said on defense, you want to do the exact things that I just told you not to let happen on defense. You want to do those on attack. You're cleansing and getting past that fucking gate. Because when you go in towards point, they have to come in towards point, which makes your gate easy to walk through. If point team is not in when you're crashing in from a side gate, you are crashing into B-choke and trying to wipe their point team. Because again, if your point team gets wiped on defense, you're fucked. But if your point team, if you wipe their point team on attack, we win the war, especially with long respawns. If point team is already in, you're just bringing it tight to point, and you're playing dirt or hell or tiptoeing. You're always tiptoeing point when you can. But if you're already in, you're just bringing it tight. You're playing in dirt, you're playing in hell, you're playing down towards B-choke, like, you know, bottom left, bottom right, around that choke. You're just bringing it tight to point. You want it tight to point on attack. You don't want it tight to point on defense. You want to keep them away from the point on defense. You want to keep it as tight as possible on attack. Fire fatties, you're helping your healer get in and then bringing it tight to point. As a fire fatty, if you get in through there, you don't have a grav mail to hit you know, onto the choke. You're not going to provide a whole lot there. If your healer doesn't get in, dog aggro, sorry. Echo, shut the fuck up, man. As a firefighter, you're helping that healer get in. You're flamethrower people that are hitting them. You're fucking blast shotting people away. You're making sure your healer gets in, babysit them a little bit, get them in, then you can bring it tight to point. If you notice no kill squads are stopping the rebuild, I think a lot of times, and again, I don't know kill squad, but I think a lot of times it's like fire staffs or bows or someone looking to stop that VGIG that's rebuilding. But if someone's not, designate someone in your group, whether it's the firefatty or the VG or a disruptor, like designate someone in your group to prio stopping that rebuild. Because as good as it is to get it up on defense, it is a killer on attack. If they get up your gate, you through. Do not let them get up your gate ever. If there's downtime in fort or there's a reset out of fort, like basically if we're not looking for a crash soon, you don't need to be playing super tight to point, we're waiting for respawns to get in kind of thing, ape down some shops. Hit those shops, hit the repair part shop, hit the cleanse pot shop. Like if they can't buy inside their fort, they're going to lose crashes eventually. So go hit shops if you have downtime. You obviously shouldn't prio shops over like a crash, but if you just have downtime and you're not really doing anything, go hit a shop, break it. And lastly, play life. Being alive in fort just puts pressure on their entire army, as we know. Last thing I'll say here, just escaped my mind. Rebuilds on doors. In case you don't know, if they partially rebuild a door, you can see its health bar. There's a little red bar or black bar that's like halfway filled with red, depending on how much they've rebuilt it. If you hit the perimeter of the door, like bottom left, bottom right of the door, you can break their rebuild progress. So let's say you all crash down from a side gate and their anchor immediately goes and starts rebuilding, but he doesn't get all the way up, and you notice that it's not all the way up, and you have some downtime, just start hitting that fucking gate. Break that progress down, because that's just fully wasted repair parts by them. Point team attack. If they're even numbers, you're pushing past. If it's 10v10 in the point, or you even have more numbers than them on B-choke, you gotta get in. You gotta push past. If you're outnumbered, if they have 15 people sitting in B-choke, you have to usually wait for a crash from your side gates. And that's on side gates to get into the fort. That'll be calmed. It's war dependent. But if it's even numbers, you got to get in. You got to step point. You got to get to the top of point. You got to get in there. Start spinning that thing as quick as possible. It puts pressure on their whole army. Again, you're going to play to the top of point or hell. This will force their point team to have to play their bottom of point and make it easier for your healers to walk in and heal from the B-choke. This happened to us a lot in that price check war, where they were just sending like 20 to 30 of their people into hell. And as a point team, like we couldn't play the top of B-choke. We had to keep going and helping bottom because it was just so outnumbered. But they should never get that many people into fort and be alive inside a fort. So they did a really good job, honestly, of playing their top of point because it kept bringing us to our bottom of point where we don't want to be. Last thing, spin the point. Spin is everything. And I think that's all I have in this presentation, to be honest. Anybody have any questions there? No dumb questions. This is your time to ask them, because if our macro doesn't 180 in the next war, I'm going to be pissed. So ask away, please. Okay, then I'm just going to continue. Fort diagram, right? Obviously it's a little ugly, but we move. I didn't put any kill squads here. I think 9 and 10 usually will just play on the gates that have 3 groups on them in the front. Again, I'm not a kill squad guy, so let's just pretend for now that it's only quad teams. 5 and 4. Corn or whoever is in here that makes the roster, do we usually have set groups that are anchor and set groups that are flex? Or no?
Yeah.
Alright, which
I think
one's
4,
which?
5 is. I think 4, 5 is anchor.
I know 5 is anchor.
Or 5, 6 is anchor. I mean.
5, 6, okay.
6, yeah.
Yeah. 3, 4 is flex.
Alright.
5, 6 is anchor.
Beautiful. So we'll just go based off that. So I know the 6 is hard as fuck to see, but as an anchor group, let's say it's 10v10 here, 10v10 here. It's usually going to be like 15v15 here, and you have a kill squad above or behind or wherever the fuck they play. But let's just say 10v10. They push in, you're playing in this gate, right? You are soldiering up in this gate, you're being a lineman, you're not letting them get through. But let's say this group gets in, right? Let's say that's like 4 bruisers, a VGIG, and a healer get through. Group 4, you're immediately moving down. Group 5, if only like 3 or 4 got through like that, you are still playing this anchor. You are not letting them come in. They have healers out here, they have a bruiser straggler out here. You are making it hell for them to get in. If they start outnumbering us on point, absolutely come back. Except again for the VGIG. VGIG, you're staying, you're Bob the Builder, you're getting that gate back up. Now let's say you're on this gate, and they have 10v10, and all 10 just walk in for free. They fucking outplayed the shit out of you, they're just better, they're all in. Everyone's bringing it tight. VGIG, you're doing your thing, but everyone else is bringing it tight. This goes across the army. Because let's say that anchor group says, there's only a few, we're chilling. And these guys come in, and only group 4 follows them. And same thing over here. They get those in, that anchor group stays. These guys get in. We are now 30 versus 20 on the point. 1, that's going to let them ticket fast as fuck, because they're plus 10 on the point. 2, if they do decide to crash during this, we're not winning. We are outnumbered by 10 people. So you have to pay attention to how many people are getting through your gate. Even if you're an anchor group, you have to be willing to follow if it's everybody. Because if you don't follow, everything is fucked on the point. And that's where they start getting these like 60-70% ticks for no reason, because I feel like people just are not following their side gates in to fort. So please pay attention to how many people are getting through. Ideally, never let anyone through, but it's going to happen. You're not just going to stuff an army at the choke the entire war. But just try to pay attention to that kind of stuff. Like I had something else important to say. Any other gamers in here have anything that they want to say, even if it's not a question or something like that? Any comments? Any other advice, wisdom? Okay. To be honest,
I have one Blade question.
Yeah, hit me.
If I'm playing group 4 and I see those, let's say 3 or 4 bruiser getting in, I'm immediately going. I'm pulling them 2 point. Play
That is
side.
correct. That is correct.
All right.
And again, you are trying to slow them as much as possible while they're doing that.
Even if the gate is fucking juicy and there's only 3 bruiser that pass,
Yep,
I follow
doesn't
them.
matter. Does not
All right.
matter. Because
Fine.
even if the gate's juicy and you guys are 10 versus 7 on this gate and the rest of the 7 aren't getting in, those 3 guys that just got in, other way around, those 3
missing
guys
the
that just
point.
got in,
Yeah.
they can crash down onto this with grav det, and everyone down here is fucked. So you're following them, you're slowing them. Even if it's 1 bruiser that gets past you, have one of your bruisers follow that guy. Like, do not let them walk into this fort for free as a flex team. If you're an anchor group
Heard.
and one gets by, who cares? But if you're a flex team and one gets by, you cannot let them outnumber around the point. Point's all that matters.
Bird, thanks.
You bet. That was a good question. Anybody else?
For for anchor teams and flex teams, if the VGIG of an anchor group dies, is that something that should be like communicated to the flex group on that gate, and then that VGIG stays on that gate like until that person's back up? Or is that just not something that like people have to really care about? Like, does that question make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It's a good question. The short answer is no, because the flex VGIG is not going to have repair parts. Right? So,
The short answer is yes, but
huh?
if you are an anchor and you are dead, yes, you should calm that.
Just 1 VGIG to the whole army? I don't think so.
If the anchor is dead, yeah, that's important.
Okay.
To the caller, maybe not the whole army, but usually it's to the whole army, right? So most ways people communicate.
Yeah.
But you should tell people if the anchor is dead.
If the whole anchor group's dead, I agree. I don't know if I agree if just the anchor VGIG goes down, because they're gonna have their respawn and go back to rebuilding when they come up. Like, it's not... I don't know. Like, when you're worrying about crashing and like people getting in and stuff like that, I don't know that like, oh, the anchor VGIG is dead is like super important information to the army. I don't know. Obviously, if you're like a flex VGIG and you happen to see that like there's no ice gauntlet at your gate, like the other VGIG's down at your gate, go help out and like hold down the gate until they can come back, kind of thing, I guess, would be important. Like ice wall, but like you don't have repair parts. I don't know. I mean, you don't, right? Like flex VGIGs don't pick them up, right? Or am I trolling?
No, they don't.
Okay, so it's not like you can repair the gate. Like if no one's there, then there's not much you can do. Like you're still coming down into this clump and still contributing to the crashes and stuff like that. I'm gonna load up a VOD real quick. That's what I was gonna do. I think this is our price check.
Maybe just keep playing towards Yo,
Oh, that's what I was gonna.
Monk's weak.
I should timestamp. Careful, careful, careful. Get off that.
Isn't safe. Don't
So
go
that's what I was
there.
gonna talk about. So, price check. I brought it up, but like they did a really good job of playing into hell into our bottom of point,
Left side's kinda
where
getting
we had to
close.
keep coming back.
Couple targets
And like
coming in.
I want to be in B
Monk's
choke
weak.
and like top of point
Yo,
right now.
Monk's weak.
Then,
I
but they did a
gotta
really
buy.
good job of
They have a lot
playing
right-
towards
right
the
here.
back.
They have a lot right
Careful
here.
left side here. Careful on right. Careful on right.
If you guys need to buy C side.
Yo, shit, actually, careful on right. Oh, shit, they're getting on.
Oh, they're deading top. They're deading top. They're deading top. They crash back down into us here.
Top right, top right, top right, top right. Crash
Going
top
into
right.
this. Going into this. Going into this.
Top right. Crash top right. Yo, this is fat. Stay in. Stay
Oh,
in,
it's
stay
big.
in.
It's
Big
big. It's
wide.
big. It's big. We
Holy
just
shit, good
piss
morning,
wiped them.
everyone.
Nice,
Good
nice,
fucking
nice, nice,
crash.
nice.
Keep it up.
We got C rebuilt as well. Good job. Clean up left side of fort. Clean up
Fuck
left
is
side
my
of fort.
mouse,
Also,
bro?
reset angle. Push towards choke.
Clean,
Go
clean left side of fort. C is rebuilt.
W.
They're all gonna try to leave. They're all trying to leave.
They have a
killer squad top C.
Garen abuser could die. Is that a stamp?
Yeah. So again, we push him back to B choke here. This is great. We have a C rebuild. I think Richard was popping off on Bod the Builder this war. I don't know. Did A gate ever come back up?
Yeah, I think it came up.
It came up once
Okay.
earlier on.
Got you.
Yeah, I think the last time it went up was like 6 minutes.
Okay. That's another thing I was going to talk about. Okay. So I saw the clip, and I know Coffee already told me what happened. Sorry to call you out, Coffee. But A gate, towards the very end of the war, if a gate is built and there are like 2 minutes left in the war, you are pumping all your repair parts into that. I know Coffee pressed the wrong fucking button. Unlucky. It happens. But if there is low time left in the war and you can hold people getting in, you're not going to get any more like full repairs in. So you're just pumping repair parts to stop them from pushing into the fort. And that's any gate, right? So thank you for bringing that up because I forgot to bring that up. Trying to look. I mean, they're just doing a really good job. Like, you see how many people they have in hell and like towards our bot quads in here. Like, they just did a really good job this war of playing towards our bottom, which lets them move into B choke like this for free. Because if we just have a couple disruptors in here, like a couple disruptors can't do anything against 12 fucking people pushing into B. But if we're having to play bot quad as point team or as top quads that would normally play up here, we can't do a lot to this B choke because we're having to play towards bottom. Oh, just ape them on the choke, bro. Good Kyle W.
Okay, now spread. No,
Respawns are. I'm looking for the part where we ape them down.
Yo, they're all.
Okay.
Should have timestamped this shit. My bad, guys.
Take his top left.
They might start taking.
They're right after a big crash at one point. We heavy detect. Can we get rebuilds right now? Might be here. Yeah, it's right here. Okay. This is whenever I talk about like dogging people around the point as a death ball. This is what I mean. Because we did such a good job of it after this crash.
Run taking fast. Run taking fast.
Look at choke. Look at choke.
Left third's empty. We can play for left.
We kill people on left. They're so farmed on mid left.
Good mid right.
Screaming mid left. 2, 1. Crash left side point. Bottom left, bottom left. Mid left.
This is like a pretty mid crash. Move it to the top, But our whole army. Hold on, my fucking food dispenser's going for the dog. I'm gonna mute real quick. Okay, we're chilling. He's gonna be eaten, but oh well. This right here, we have this group. So it looks like I know Wash was on point, Mui was on point, Popo and Marop do a great job following this though, because we just got some good kills and they're at least weak and no cooldowns, and they're moving around this way. Just watch how we dog this in a full circle. Move the top right. Newbie's on point, getting active. Just do fucking circles on this.
Hey, look my right, look my right. Look how low they are. Look how low they are.
Yes. Just ate these guys all the way around the point. And we get so many kills for it.
Nice.
We heavy DT. So that kind of shit after a crash is BIS, where when you win a crash and they don't have a recrash available, just dogging them in a circle around the point, following those low health targets as an army is huge. Because when you get kills, especially inside fort, it is massive. Less people, less attackers inside fort is a great thing on defense. Yeah, I think that's all I got, to be completely honest. Are there any more questions at the very end here? Does everyone feel good on how they need to play their role inside a fort, is what I'm really asking. And outside.
Yeah, I think that was really helpful.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet.
Hold on, I'm cooking a question. I'm just thinking.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the rest of this time, I got 10 minutes till Warphold's. Like, the rest of this time we're here is for questions. So be thinking of them, ask them. Like, you got 10 minutes here to just ask anything and everything. Because, again, I would so much rather you ask now, even if you think it's a dumb question or it's already been covered. Ask it now, because if we watch VODs the next war and this shit hasn't been fixed, like, it's going to be a bit of a bummer.
Okay, hey Blade. Can I just show you a clip and I want to get your like opinion
Yeah, that works.
on this? Is if this is the right decision or not?
Let's do it.
Because Corn said this was bad last night, but like I didn't.
Yeah,
I
what
don't
does
know.
that guy know?
Yeah, facts. Whisperser.
If you're about to show you droning out and running the point,
No.
I'm gonna be pissed.
Hold on, I'm muting. I think it's like right here. Okay, so like 3 to 4 leak in. I think it's right here. Hold up.
Are you anchor or flex?
Or flex. I think it's this one, or it might be the next push here. We'll see.
Yeah, you need to clarify this, Waleed, because he's gonna explain why he did this and why I told
Like
him.
right
what he
here,
did
we
was wrong.
follow. I don't think this is the part, but like right here. Wait, it's not this one. It's the next
I
push.
think it's the first push.
You think? Yeah. Here, wait. Let
I
me
think it
just
was
see.
the very first push. I can just tell you what happens. I know exactly what you're gonna show. First push, 2 people leak in. He runs straight to B choke and just dives on B choke.
Alright, let's see it. This is a really good job, like playing in choke, like I was talking about. Too many bruisers play behind this choke. You have a healer for a reason.
No, for sure. So one dude leaks in.
Yeah.
Yada yada. I'm pretty sure this is. Okay, so this dude leaks in. And like these people start pushing in. Like, is this like.
Yeah,
Like,
as
is
a
this
flex, you're
stupid?
for sure following this. As a flex
Say
group,
that one
you're
more time?
100%. As a flex group, you're 100% following that. Like 5 people. just
Okay,
got
so
in.
so
Did
let
he
me ask
call
you
for
this.
a
So are
crash
we
here?
benching Corn? I think he said shove B choke.
Okay.
Okay, hang on. Let me explain what the issue with what you did was. Okay, 2 people leak in, and for some reason, Heycrew says immediately, "Oh, sides are pushing, flex, come straight to point,"
Yeah, that's what it was.
which is a
That's why I
horrible
came
comp.
here.
Horrible comp. And you just run straight to B choke. You're not chasing anyone. You're just running to B. You should be fighting the people that pushed in, not running to B.
Correct. I mean, the
Yeah, I can
only
agree with
exception
that.
is
And
if he's
that's what I
calling a
said to you, is
crash
like-
there.
Like
Which-
you want to be fighting those people. You don't want to be just run straight to the point.
Right. You
Because
wanna
then they're just
dog
running
their
to the
way
point
in.
behind you.
Correct.
Oh, okay. I
But
get what
again,
you
like
mean.
I was saying, like you want to slow them moving to the point as much as possible. Like you didn't have cooldowns up, but you can body block. Like, you can just fucking auto them. You can just be a nuisance, right? Like, you want to slow them getting to the choke because they had already, it looks like, crashed and we re-crashed it. So, like, if he's calling for a crash on top of point, which I think he did here, if I remember correctly, and we got a
Yeah,
lot of
we'll
wipes
play it.
from
Let me
it.
hear.
Get a point. Look at choke. Choke is huge.
Yeah, he calls a crash.
Yeah, so I got no issue with you crashing down onto this. Like, this is what you should do. But I do agree with Corn, like, on your way in, you should be looking to dog people on the way in. You're not just, like, running next to them.
Okay.
So, like,
Yeah, I
make
can
it
agree
in
with
here,
that.
they're going in.
That's what I'm
like,
explaining.
Yeah.
You need to be preventing the fight from being
Those two guys
on
right
the
there.
point.
Those two guys that were just there, pull it back like 5 seconds.
Like behind me.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
guy
yeah.
right next to you, he just runs into the choke
These
with
two
you.
dudes, you were dogging
right
those
here.
fuckers.
Okay.
Hitting the two guys to your right, not
Yes.
running to the
Okay.
point.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
you're just W keying to the point, and like it kind of works because we end up getting good wipes on this. But like, yeah, those dudes that were coming in, like you're dogging them all the way down. You beating them there does nothing.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just curious about that.
It's not a
Oh,
beeline to point. It's like
Correct.
it's they want to pull the fight to point. You want to prevent the fight from being pulled to point.
Okay. That's what like I was kind of confused on when you said that, but now like I'm kind of realizing like what that fully means. Like,
Any other questions? Otherwise, we will call it here.
I'm cooking. I'm cooking.
Is Blade done talking? Can it come back?
Blade's gotta go.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, Blade. I missed 99% of this.
That's alright, man. You can watch the VOD back later.
Oh my god.
I trust that you'll study up.
How are you gonna improve if you didn't watch?
You don't slot me on point.
Blued.
Blade.
All right.
Question.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead.
Is Bowser here? Bowser, you might be able to answer this.
Hello.
How should our VGs be playing on quads, positioning wise?
On point.
On point. Okay.
Edge of point. Edge of point.
Put your big toe on point and don't fucking move. No, I'm just kidding. You definitely want to position yourself to be able to get screams off while putting your oblivions down, debuffing enemies, and supporting your bruisers as much as possible. Just find free space.
And then I don't know
you're
if you...
playing bruiser, right?
Yeah.
You can just play the edge, but they can play more freely than you can. So they don't have to be up in everyone's face.
They also have more health than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're also prio heals.
Wait,
so
Correct. Bruisers
priority
are.
heals.
Bruisers have more health than a
Bruisers are.
VGIG and have more prio on heals.
You have to have a healer in your group to have prio heals.
That's true.
Yeah,
Well,
Dawson, figure your shit out, bro.
Oh, and then other question.
Answer to defend himself.
He's not even here.
Blade, I
Oh,
don't know if
fuck.
you, I don't know if you want to know this, Blade, but how about our +1s for like quad groups and shit like that? Where should they be playing?
You're who?
Our +1s. So like sometimes we'll get like a disruptor in our group, or we'll get like a fatty and shit like that.
Oh, that.
I don't know
that
if you
ain't
went
me,
over
bro.
that.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
That's a dumb question. I don't know. I play Bruiser,
Hey, you
bro.
said-
I play Bruiser. I
You
know
said
clubs.
main ball macros. Hey, I know. Hey, you said main ball macros. You know what I'm saying?
All I know
not
about
public
disruptors in
anymore.
quad groups is they rarely join comms and they just do their own thing and fuck healers. And it sounds kind of fun, but I don't know shit about what they do. That is not a me question. Okay,
Would you
I'm
like to
gonna
explain
call
more?
it here. I'm gonna kill the recording as well because it's an hour and 15 minutes long, and I'm gonna go hop into comms for my war. But seriously, thank you guys all for coming out and for asking questions and being active. And yeah, I'm
You're so
expecting big
welcome.
things next war.
See you, Blue.
Thanks, Bosh.